for Dacra SMS system. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping notes. Today we will be talking about the adaptive dashboards. After the webinar, we will send out a link to the webinar on our YouTube channel in an email. And while we're on that subject, I'm going to switch screens and kind of show you guys a little bit of how to do that when you get into the YouTube channel or if you're trying to find the YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel looks just like this. You come in on the home screen right here. I just wanted to point that out, but we do have multiple videos. And with Dacra, we have more than just the adaptive system. So you will see some other things that don't apply to adaptive necessarily. So keep that in mind. I also want to point out that YouTube has done something to the quality of videos. So when you click on the video, you're going to want to come down to this gear down here at the bottom and set the quality to 1080 or 1080p or 720 maybe, just to have a little clearer picture when you're listening to the videos. So keep that in mind. It's not something we can change, but YouTube has set that to automatically go to one of them, but we suggest going and getting a higher quality when you're listening to those videos. We are going to be muting all the phone lines. So if you have questions, you can come to the chat box, which I will show you here in just a second. So there's a chat box at the top of the screen, and you can see it's right here next to these two little people. So if you click on it, you can put your question right here, and we will get to those at the end of the session, actually. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to cover the front side of the dashboards today. So we're going to start by clicking on the dashboards tab at the top of the screen. And you're going to see that I have a couple of them in here that are not necessarily what you actually see when you come in. So you get two when you go into your dashboards. We always have like a defaulted for two. It'll be the My Dashboard and the Company Dashboard. So let's talk about this My Dashboard first. So the My Dashboard is strictly for you. So if you're looking at stuff, it's going to be the stuff that is actually what you have entered and the things that you want to be seeing personally, not your whole company. So you can see here, there's a few cards that are listed in here, and some of these I have put in because I want to be able to see them. So on the left-hand side, I have action items. If you do not use action items, you will not need this card. We'll discuss later on in the session how to put those cards together the way you want them. So if you want those action items to show on here, it's great to see because you can easily click on this. It'll actually take you to that action item so you can complete it and close it out, and then it'll come off your screen. But you can also see the ones that you have created. So if you've created one and assigned it to somebody else, it's also going to show you in here. A couple of the other dashboard cards we have on the My Dashboard tab is going to be the top chart of at-risk exposures. So you can see here that I have about 10 coming in. This is something that you can set to see how many you want. We usually have it set to 5, so you'll see 5 of them on there, but you may want to see more than that. And that's something that you'll do when you're doing the setup in the other section that Chris is going to be going over. As I scroll down the screen, you can also see that we have a feedback over here on the right-hand side. And the feedback is going to actually be if you're using, and we're going to look at this actual card here in just a minute. If you're using our feedback sections and you're putting in comments, they're going to show up for those who you're giving comments to, and they can see those on here. Great way to keep your employees motivated and seeing that they're doing a good job at this. The last card that I was going to bring up on the My Dashboard tabs is the My Stats, and that's going to show you here on this side, the stats for yourself and also the group average over here on the right-hand side. So you can see as you go down the screen, there's a few things you can be looking at for yourself and for how the group average is actually doing. That's going to be the My Dashboard. The second one we're going to look at is the Company Dashboard. So this kind of defaults to certain things, and we may have moved some of these things around and added some new ones that we wanted to see on this one. But for the most part, it's going to give you some of the basic information, and it's going to be like the safe, the at-risk, total barriers, participation rates, things like that. And as you scroll down the screen, you'll see a few more. We're going to talk about each one of these cards shortly, so I'm not going to go through each one of these on this page. So I just want to point out a few more things. First of all, if you're not getting quite the number you're looking for, make sure your date range is correct. If you're using our date range box, you can click on it. This will pop up right here. We have some default features over here on the left-hand side, such as last 3 months, last month, this month. or you can do a custom range by clicking on this and changing it to what you would like to see. So that's one thing you need to make sure you look at. The other thing on the over here on the right-hand side is a filter button. So as you can see, I have multiple tabs, which we'll talk about a little bit more here in a second. But you can add filters to the dashboard so you can only see certain things. So if you click on the filter button, you can see that I'm looking at 11 different organizational units that we have selected in here. And that's the only ones I want to look at. But maybe you want to look at some different things. This is departments, shifts, areas. You will see user departments, user areas, and user shifts. That's if you have applied the users to a department, an area, or a shift, you can actually filter by those. Not everybody will have that option if they don't have that selected for each user. You can also do it by the checklist or the organizational unit. So that's some ways you can get data broke down by different areas or departments and things like that. Excuse me. All right, so my job today is to actually take you through a few of these buttons over here on the right-hand side. So we're going to start clear on the right where there's a drop down, and I just want to show you this quickly before we kind of move into some other stuff. If you click on that, you're going to see a couple different words in here, and each one of those is a different scheme that you can use for each one of these pages. So as you can see right now, I'm looking at this one, and it's the color of like teal, black, and red, or orange, whatever you're going to call that. If you don't like those colors, you can switch it out and give it a second to redo it. Then those changes will be made so you can see it in a little bit different of a color. So you can see that change right there. So that's just something if you want to see a different color on there. The next thing we're going to look at are the 4 buttons up here on the right-hand side. So I'm going to take you through the first 3. And we're going to start with the Add Dashboard button. So if you hover over the button, it'll actually populate to show you what it actually does. So if I click on it, you can see that either I have some that I've actually hidden and decided to take off the dashboard up here, or you can create a new dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new dashboard. I'm going to call it Operations. Gonna hit OK. It'll add it up here to this row. So I have a tab that I can actually add dashboard cards to and have more tabs. So you can go through different things and filter out what you want to see. So I would be filtering everything for operations. And that's what you can do. And here you can add those. I'm going to show you a few other tricks that you can use in there. So you can see across the top, I have a few tabs, and it's just a matter of what I want to look at. So it's all going to be what I look at. This is not for your entire company. This is your personal page when you log in. So you can see those. Let me go back there. So you can see there's a few cards for admin. I do have one called All Dashboards. We're going to look at that quite a bit today because I've got all the cards actually open on it. So you can see every single one of those. Also in here, we have I did one that just has one card on it because I wanted to just see this activity breakdown, which has to do with goals if you guys are not currently using those. So you can easily see that. And I have it because it's a pretty big card. I wanted it big so I can go in and drill into it pretty well. So that's why I have it on its own tab. So these are things that you can do with your guys' dashboards pretty easily. So you can create your own dashboards. That's what we just learned how to do over here. You can see that operations 1 showed up. Maybe I don't want the operations one, so I'm going to click on it. I can actually hide it if I click on the 3rd button over here on the right. So there's the hide button. I'm going to go ahead and click that. If I do hide that button or accidentally do one, because I have done that before, you can come back to this Add Dashboard button right here, and you'll find that in here. So you can see Operations Department is right here, and you can click on it. It'll open that card right back up, or that tab right back up. The second button over is one of my favorite buttons. So let's say I was doing a company dashboard and I wanted to make one just like it, but I wanted to do some filtering to it. So I got all my cards the way I like it on here, and I want to make a copy of it. So I'm going to click on that tab, and then I'm going to click on the 2 pieces of paper over here, the second button, and I'm going to hit copy. So what it's going to do is it's going to copy this exact one that you see right down here. So everything stays the same. All the cards are the same. And if I click on the name of it, I can rename it. This would be a great way if you're wanting to do different tabs for different departments to do this. So I'm going to put in that, well, let's try a different one here. Let's do maintenance this time too. And then as you click off, it renames it. Then I would come down here, click the filter button, find the maintenance department in my list. You can see that here. And I'm going to save. So now everything on this one is going to actually show just for maintenance. So that's a great way to use those. And like I said before, I went through the first 2 buttons. This is the hide button, but make sure you hover over it so you know what each one of those do. With that being said, I'm going to click on the all dashboards so you can see kind of a view of what the dashboard looks like. And then we're going to break it down by each one of the dashboard cards. So it takes a minute because we've got quite a few dashboard cards you can see on here. So it's going through and opening some of those up right now. So you can see I sort mine in different ways, and Chris is going to teach you how to do this here in just a little while. So you can go through and see all the different ones on here. I like to put my bigger ones towards the bottom, and these are kind of like half screens here, and I do the full ones clear at the bottom. So this one I did a full one for, this one I did. So you can kind of see that's a good way of organizing things on the screen. All right, so now I'm going to switch over to a PowerPoint because I want to be able to show you each one of the cards and how we calculate some of the calculations for them. So the first card we're going to look at is the total observations, and that's just going to be if you have the total number of observations entered in a specific time range. Like we showed you those date ranges up there, that's what that's going to be for. So it's just a number card. The second one is the percent safe. You can see that I've actually added the wording down here and the calculations on how to do things. So you can see safe count plus at-risk count barrier equals total observed. And then this is how we do the calculations if you're looking how to do those. We will send this PowerPoint out at the end of this session so you guys can see that. And I'm going to go ahead and click to the next one. The total safe is obviously going to be the number of safes that have been marked for that date range. The percent at risk is going to be similar to what we saw before on the percent safe, and it's going to be safe count plus risk count plus barrier equals total, and then you're going to take that at risk count and divide it by that. And same with the total number of at risk. So that's going to be how many times at risk has been marked on those sheets that you're looking at for that date range. Some people don't use barrier. We've talked a little bit before in other sessions what a barrier is. So most people use safe at risk. Barrier is a third option that has been added with the software that you could possibly use. So an example of this would be the employee's wearing his hard hat and he's doing it correctly. That would be a safe. So, and then if the employee is not wearing his hard hat, but he left it in his locker, decided he didn't want to wear it today, just hates it, he left it there, then that would be an at risk. A barrier would be the employee broke his hard hat yesterday and he decided, and there was none to replace that hard hat. So it would be a barrier. So you would have maybe an action item assigned to somebody to order more of the hard hat so he has one, and then decide what would be best for the employee to do, being he's not wearing his gear. So that's kind of what these are used for. So here you can see total barrier, the number of times the exposure result barrier was selected. You can view the barrier count on the observer stats report also. And then we also have a percent barrier too. The next one down is participation rate. This one's kind of tricky to figure out on your own, so always feel free to contact your client success managers to help you out with that. It'd be the number of users with the observer role that submitted observations is divided by the total number of users with the observer role in your company to determine the participation rate. So it takes a little bit of looking at stuff. You have to run some reports and pull out employee names that are duplicated and figure that number out, and then make sure they're all assigned to that observer role. So that's important for participation rate. You have to be assigned the observer role to be counted. Next one is coaching rate. The number of observations that have been coached is divided by the total number of observations to determine the coaching rate. So you can see that calculation there. Feedback. So feedback comes actually from some observation comment boxes or reviewer comment boxes that you can see on our screen. I have a couple of screenshots for the different ones you can see. So you can see here, Chris's feedback is up here at the top. This is one that he's looking at, that he's seen. on his sheets when he's looking at his own. He can see that he was doing one. It would have been recorded down here either in one of these 4 boxes. So if you're on the observation and you're looking at it, if you have it turned on, there'll be an observer comment box down there at the bottom and a reviewer comment box. Keeping in mind, people turn these off, so you may not be seeing those. Also, there's another 2 boxes that could have some comments in it, and that would be located in the at-risk. So if you click on an at-risk and that comment box pops up in there, it would actually be those 2 boxes that could possibly be turned on in there. So it just is a matter if you have things turned on or not to be able to see those. The next one is the active observers. So that's the number of users that have entered observations in specific date range. So if you have entered, this doesn't have anything to do with like the users are active. This is if you have entered an observation and you're getting counted in here. So keep that in mind because there's a little bit of confusion about that sometimes. Just because they're not active, that doesn't mean this one won't show them on here. This is going to be if they're a non-active user and somebody's entering observations for them, it'll still count them for it. The average observations per observer is the total observations entered in that date range divided by the total number of users that have entered observations in the date range. So you can see that number down here. The observation quality. So we have 2 things I want to show you here. So here's observation quality star rating. And if I scroll down, you're going to see the exposure quality star rating. So with this new system, we have kind of changed up a way we can do things. And instead of having like a number system where you rank how the quality of those comments are, we've actually changed it to a star rating. So you can see that right there. And you could have one of 2. So some people like to be able to do a star rating for the entire observation, and that's going to be located, if they have it turned on, at the bottom of the front of the observation. So if you're filling out your observation, you get to the bottom, that star rating will be located right down there. So that's that one. And you can see over here on the right-hand side, that's the total observation star rating divided by total observations equals observation quality. And then that person can actually see their own quality star ratings on this dashboard. If I scroll down, the second one you could possibly see is actually the exposure quality star rating. So if you are using the star quality rating and it's coming up inside your at-risk boxes, so here's your at-risk comment boxes, so you can see that right there, a couple of things you might have turned on also, then you're going to see the star rating in that box. So just a matter of what one you use. So keep that in mind when you're getting into the metric cards and you're trying to add some of these to it, make sure you have the correct one. So if you're doing it by at risk, you want this one. If you're wanting one for the entire observation, then it's going to be this one. The next one we're going to look at is people observed, total individuals observed. So if you are actually using this feature, it's turned on and it looks just like this, number observed down here at the bottom. And you can see how many people they're observing at one time. That's what's going to be populating this number right here. So is this one that we're looking at. The review rate is the number of observations divided by the total number of observations. So you can that have been reviewed. So you can see that if you're reviewing things, that's what this one's actually going to be for. Percent observer feedback, the number of observations with text entered into the observer comments. So we talked about this a little bit ago about if you're entering comments into these, that's going to be showing that they're actually putting comments in, and there is something you can have turned on to show the percent observer feedback for that. If you need help with that, if you guys don't have some of these features turned on, please talk to your client success managers. They can help you out, turn a few more features on if you'd like to see some of these. Something kind of new to everything is the serious injury fatality Sift count. So you can see that it is actually going to appear if you are doing an at-risk and you click on the at-risk comment box to pop up. It's going to be inside there. It's something you have to have turned on if you want to use it. And then this count box down here is actually going to be telling you how many times it was clicked. So you can see that right there. Percent clean sheets. So it's the number of clean sheets divided by the total observations equals clean sheets. So what is a clean sheet? It's usually when 100% of safe is marked on the sheet. You have no at-risk on there. So if you're looking at that, it's a great thing to look at to make sure that your observers are not just continually marking everything safe just to get through the observations. It's good to see that number so you can see if they are actually marking some at risk at the same time. The percent reviewer feedback, again, that's going to be if you actually click on the reviewer feedback and mark it reviewed, that's going to be if you're going to see that number, if you want to see that number, you have to be able to do that in those fields. High risk, at risk. This is a marking that you can actually mark some of your exposures as at risk, high at risk. In order to do that, you're going to go to the feature setup page. You're going to go into BBS checklist, and then there's going to be a list of things in there, and you're going to pick exposures. Then you're going to locate the exposure that you're looking for, which I'm looking at ascending, descending, and you're going to edit that one. And then you're going to see this box right down here below. So if you want to mark it a high at risk, this is a great place to do that, is to go into those exposures and click those. Then you can see if an at-risk was actually being or actually marked for one of these, it'll actually populate this number. So if you marked ascending, descending, at-risk, it's going to make this a 1. There's 2 other things here. We have department contact rate. That's something that you can do. So it's the total number observed for the department is divided by the total population for the department. Populations are located on the organizational unit page. If you don't have a population in there, it probably won't work for you. Same with location contact rate. If you're going to want to see that, it's the total number observed at the location is divided by the total population again for that location. And we can help you set that up if you guys don't know how to do those. So then we're going to start getting into some of the more graphic reports, like ones that have actually graphs and things like that. So the first one is the goals over time for myself. So if I have goals set for myself, you can kind of see behind, you can see some of the lines. This one's going to show you the target number over here on the left-hand side. This one's going to show you the months across the bottom here. And then it's going to tell you in this little box here, how many, if you're hovering on it, how many they target was and the actual number of that were done. This one's meeting some actual observations done in here. The next one is the observations over time. This is one of my favorite ones because it does tell you a little bit of information about your guys' company. So I wanted to give you 2 examples of one of these so you can kind of see what it looks like. These are 2 clients that I have that I pulled these from, and you can see that they are doing observations pretty well. They're kind of fluctuating up and down a little bit. That's what you want to see throughout all the months. And then they kind of had a drop off. They decided they just weren't going to put any more in for a little while. So I think this is actually a shutdown for them. They were down for about a month and they didn't do observations. And that's what's showing on here. The bottom one is kind of interesting because this is exactly what you don't want to see is very few done at the beginning of the month and then major influx right at the end of the month, which we see all the time because people like to not do them. They procrastinate, wait till the end of the month, and then you're going to see that. So every month you can see the peak right at the end. So you can see that's June 27th. If I hover over each one of those, I can usually see right when the end of the month was. We talked about this a little bit before, top number of at-risk exposures. You can see which one those are. You can also click on some of these graphs that we're looking at. So you can click on this line and it'll actually take you to another report and show you the number exactly, or you can look at each one of those different observations that have those marked. Observer feedback. Again, if you have the observer feedback feature turned on, you'll see these appear on the left-hand side of the screen when you're entering an observation. So you can see those. And this actual card is coming from those. So they're just watching to make sure all the observer comments and reviewer comments are staying, neutral, appreciative, or if they're using some coaching to do those. So you can see that on this one here. We talked about this one also, the My Stats report. Again, it's going to look at your stats and then it's going to compare it to the group average. So you can compare, am I putting in enough at risk? Well, I'm putting in 5% at risk, but the group average is 11. So maybe I need to look a little bit harder to see if I'm still or needing to put more at risk in. The next one is one that we're still kind of in the building process for. This is a generic form element. If you are using variables and flags, you could possibly be seeing some of that information on this actual generic form elements card. like I said, we're still working on this card. It's got some of it right now, and it's going to be possibly getting some more put on it. So you can see a few of the features in there that you can see. Action item status that shows the status of all action items. So if you're using the action item feature in our system, it's a great way to see if everybody's getting their action items closed out. And then you can see which ones have been completed or in progress. And then you can see that we're kind of bad about doing action items. So these are all the ones that are open. You don't want to see that necessarily on yours. This is an exposure chart. So you can see it's going to show you your at-risk percentages compared to your safe percentages. If you're using the barrier, it'll also show barrier on here. This is a little bit of a different one that is kind of new to the system. It's called percent safe by exposure over time. When you come into it, so in here we have 14 pages of exposures that could be showing on here. So it's kind of hard to actually see stuff because there's just a bunch of lines going up and down. So what I did is I actually broke it down, and when I put the card in, there's a way for you to pick which exposures you want to see. So this is the one that I picked. It is eyes on path and it's task. And you can see that it stays pretty safe most of the time. And then like one day, I think it dropped off and it wasn't safe, and then it went right back up. So it's a good way to see if you guys are sticking pretty hard on the same safe line. So if you guys are wanting to see, are we always picking, you know, this actual exposure is safe? Why is that? Because we keep having incidents, you know, with this one. So you can kind of see that maybe they're not catching things by looking at that line. So that's a good one to do that with. There's also another report that actually could help with this. I think it's exposure trends report. That would also show some of this information also. Action items, we looked at this a little bit earlier, but like I said earlier, if you have action items assigned to you, or if you created one, you can actually see those right here, and the comment would appear here so you can read it. You can actually click on those action items. It'll take you to that page so you can either close it out or take a look at it and read everything in it. And the last one I think on the screen, yep, is the activity breakdown report. So this is strictly if you're using goals, this will work for you. So if you want to see, if you want to set this up, you'll need to contact your client success manager, and he can help you with the goals section. It's a lot of setup, but it's kind of neat to see once you get it done. You can see all the goals that you've set up for your company. You can see across the top here. And then as you scroll down, you can see the employees that are direct reports to you, and they can see how their progress is going. So if you're keeping track of a bunch of employees, this is a great way to watch and make sure they're getting their goals on the weekly or monthly basis that they're supposed to be doing them for. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and he's going to take you through the other side.
All right, let me get everything just switched over here really quick. All right, so we're going to cover kind of the editing side of your dashboards. So just kind of how to add your cards in there, and then trying to get it, you know, with a different layout, because there is a couple different things, you know, you can focus on, like how this, in this user here, how we have the top number chart listed kind of right in the middle, so we can see, you know, we want to see our top at risk. You can really focus on certain dashboard cards and really have it built out pretty custom, however you'd like to choose. So what we'll do is click on kind of the fourth blue button over here on the right-hand side. And if you hover over it, you notice it says edit dashboard. So within here, we have a couple different things that come up. We have share, edit layout, delete, and view. So one thing that Carla mentioned is on hiding your dashboards or deleting. The one good thing with hiding is that you're always able to bring these back. So like she had mentioned, you know, anything that's hidden, I'm on a different profile than what she was on, but we have one here that's hidden. So when you hide a dashboard, you are able to bring that back. If you delete it, it is gone. So that's just something to keep in mind. Want to make sure that if you want to keep that or use it for later on, do not delete, just hide that out. But within here, we can slowly kind of scroll through. I know Carla covered a lot of these in here. Most of the meat of your dashboards is through the metric cards. So anything that says metric card on it and on that PowerPoint that Carla has too, They all say metric card in front of it. That's where you're going to find through here. So with that, just scroll through here. Any of these can add. The one thing with the metric card, if you haven't been in here yet, we do have a lot of different ones that are all in here. Like I said, it's kind of the meat of one. You'll notice we have the different kind of layouts in the gray here. So we have goals. So any of the goals that are set up with the company and with our test portal here, we have quite a bit. You'll notice that it switches to statuses too. So anything with goals kind of shows up at the very beginning. And then next, it'll just automatically update to statuses. So with here's where you're going to find your, different contact rates, whether it's location or department, your participation rates, observation or exposure quality, and then percentage, safe, at risk, barriers. You are able to see those people observed. So a lot of the stuff that Carla just covered, most of it's probably going to be in here, and those are the main ones. You can update too. So let's say I choose like total barrier. If you do want to remove that metric card name out, you can highlight that and just delete it out. And you can rename this as well. So any of these you are able to rename all up top. And that goes along, I'll get that delete out of there. That goes along with, even if you choose exposure chart, things like that. These are ones that you are able to pick those different names and add those in there. So within these, again, scrolling through, you're able to find some of those different ones that are in here, and you're able to use these. So say again, I want to add top number chart. We do already have one in here. Actually, let me get this deleted out, and then I can re-add this in here. So I want my top number chart. All I want to show is my top 5 at risk. Drag and drop for wherever you'd like to put that. We do have a couple different options when you're editing here. So the configure, if you do come up and say, hey, maybe I want, instead of top 5, I only want to look at top 3. The button that I just hit, and I'll exit out of this, it's the first one here, and it just says configure. So this, you're able to, if I want to just change this to top 3 at risk, or, if you want to change that to safe, you are able to make those configurations and change. Really, for the metric cards, or something other than a status, things like that, is really just changing the name or pretty much changing your metric card. So it is an easy thing to delete, or instead of deleting, re-adding, you can just come back in here if it's within the same metric card or something like that. We do have cloning, really, and this just creates a duplicate of the same card. I don't think that you'll use that a whole lot. Really, it would be like the top number chart, or the exposure chart, where you're looking at different things there. For the metric cards, I guess too, if you wanted to clone, you can make it easier than hitting the add here for your metric card. You can clone and then configure again. But really, the cloning would be best for like your top at risk, things like that. Maybe your numbers over time, or that last kind of exposure chart that Carla had, where you can have different categories chosen. And then the last one here is just to delete. That one's pretty simple, and I'm sure a lot of you have used that, but you can see the different areas as well. That's kind of highlighted by the light gray dotted lines. That's where you can have a spot for a card, and I can show you here next of kind of the layout and adding those new spots. So if we hit the edit layout, it's the yellow button here, so you can click back and forth on what you want to add. But within here is where you are able to kind of highlight and make your cards a little bit bigger. Maybe there's some that you want to make smaller. You can add different rows and things like that in here as well. So if you want to do and set a focus on a certain card, like I have here at the top number chart. So what you can do is, if you hover over here, we have increase width, we have decrease. So if I decrease, it's just going to be, the smaller size. Could be even smaller if it does have, four cards in a row. So within there is kind of where you can set that up. So you're able to increase that. You can even try and, if you want kind of 2 bigger ones, you can decrease one side. If you make this one, if we pull that back down, you can you're able to kind of play with it and make these a little bit bigger. You can make them kind of the same, and then here still kind of bring that back to being bigger. So there's a couple different ways that you are able to kind of increase what you have, and then you're able to kind of play around with how big that you would like those metric cards to be. If you ever want to move some of these around, you can move these, and it's just the side arrows. So moving them left or right, you are able to make those kind of smaller. You can move them around depending on if there's a specific way that you want to have those. So you can move them around here, as well as, you can just drag and drop. For your sections as well, we do have up and down arrows. So if we wanted to focus on kind of this section that we have here, so our review rates, contact rates, action item statuses, we can move those up and down. So if I flip back now, we're going to be a little more different, can kind of flip those around. So that layout you are able to change within those. We do have subzones, and within here, I feel like the best part of those would be with group. It is grouping, but with goals. So in here with goals, what I would say is you can have those specific ones. You can have the activity breakdown, and then you can have your different kind of goals, things like that within there. Trying to think with the subzones too, it's really just kind of focusing on a specific area. So really what it does, you can still do without using the subzones. It's kind of up to you as playing around with it. I would say mostly, I mean, you can have everything grouped in there, but if you want to see like your total safe, total at risk, total barriers and total observations, if you want to have those all grouped together, you can use a subzone, have that within, your top at risk, things like that. You are able to kind of flip those out, and within here, again, you can make some of these items a little bigger, a little smaller, to take care of those areas. We also have clone. So within these as well, if I wanted to add just an extra field in here, say I have 3, I can add another spot. So then I can make this within 4, and I can kind of make that bigger. So now all of them are the same size. So the cloning is where you can add another kind of column to your list. So if you would want 5, you can have those there. I probably wouldn't use 5 unless it's just for, those showing a percentage or a number. When you get in with the charts, it's probably when it really makes it small. You can also, with these, only have 2. So we have a couple down here. We have 1. You can have those different 3. So you have a lot of kind of customization with these. We remove the names as well for this. You have the section title. So you go section 1. That one was going to create a new one. I didn't want to do that. Section 2. And then this last one here, we can name section 3. So you can name the titles. If you leave them blank, they'll just stay blank, but you can see there now with the sections, we have those. If you do want to add a new section, this is up top, or you can then clone. That's going to come up for a new section once to give it a title. You can reset these just kind of back to default. That's going to change the sizes. So if you do get something messed up, maybe you with here, you only have 2 sizes. You can reset that back to default and then move your main one out. So when you're done, we can hit view. Now you can see the different section names. So section naming is kind of, again, obviously all this is up to you how you want to do it, but grouping wise with the different kind of numbers you're looking at, different areas, you can have those kind of sectioned out and renamed differently. When it does get into, I'm going to edit again, when it gets into the sharing, and one thing that we found is with everyone having a My Dashboard and company dashboard, if you ever are wanting to share, a company dashboard or even, a My Dashboard that you set up, what I would do is either create a copy of it and rename that, or just create a brand new, add your cards in, because if you try and share just a regular company or a My Dashboard, what it's going to do is, the people that you're sending it to already have a My Dashboard and company dashboard. So that share isn't going to work because everyone kind of has their own. So that's where creating a new one, giving it a new name, just having a new dashboard is going to be the best option on sharing. So since I'm with the company dashboard here, I want to go to my activity breakdown, just show you the sharing feature for that. So again, if I edit, I hit share, it'll take just a second to load up. So there's a lot of different options within here too. You can share from everyone with the whole organization. If you have users tied to department area shift, you can sort those and send those by your department area shift. You can send it out to a specific role or a specific position. So if I choose any of these, it just brings up those specific ones. The easiest one is probably going off of users, and in here it's going to bring up everyone that is a user in the system. You can type in names. So if I want to type in Chris, I am able to I can choose my name. I can choose the admin account and just different people within here. You can have a list, and then if you hit the automatically add, that'll add to their dashboard page. And those users would be able to view. They couldn't make any changes, so they won't be able to edit that on their own, but they can look at it, make copy that by looking at it. But they are able to take a look and then kind of filter off of how they would do that. But when you're done, you can just hit save, and then that's going to add to all of those users' dashboards. So really easy and kind of simple to share. Just make sure, you make a copy of your company dashboard, or, just create a brand new one on the side, make that, and then send it off on who you'd like to share that with. But pretty simple within here, just with the editing, the layout, or even the widgets. A lot of it is if you hover over it, it'll tell you what's going to happen with it. And if you delete a specific zone, something like that within here, you can always add that back in. So if I would delete that, we get our 2. I can always copy and have another one in there. So something just to keep in mind. My card went away there, but that's all right. Last thing that I wanted to show everyone within here too is on the help file. So if you hover over that, I actually have the tab open, but it's the question mark in the upper right-hand corner. So we do have a section on dashboards, and within here, it kind of gives you some information on each of these, kind of gives you a little bit of how-tos. The main thing that I wanted to show you was the metrics. So if you were curious, and in Carla's PowerPoint, it does have a lot of the metrics, and it may have a little more for some of these. But you can see for like star ratings, a big one that we always get asked for is our contact rate, and then our participation rate. So something to keep in mind on those. If you're ever curious on just a formula for a dashboard or something, it is here with the dashboard metrics, and that's listed here. We do also, and Carla mentioned our YouTube page at the very beginning of this. We do have our videos in our help files as well. So we do have one over dashboards, and this is going to be the same video that's on YouTube. So it is here within the website. So maybe if you guys have restrictions at your company or something with YouTube, the videos are here as well. So with that, that's kind of the end of our presentation. I wanted to give you guys just some time on asking any questions. I know that we had some in the chat. I think we got a lot of these answered. I'm just going to look back. We will send out in our email. I know Larry posted it. If you do go to YouTube, you can just type in Decker Safety Management Systems. That'll pull up our YouTube page, but we'll have that with the PowerPoint and the recording as well, just so everyone has that. Again, this is going to be recorded, so you can take a step back and take a look at it. Russell, I will reach out to you, and we can look at those goals and get those kind of set up. And then it looks like, Brian, I kind of covered that on making the charts larger. So does anyone else, if you do have a question, you can come off mute, or if you want to put it in the chat. If you have any questions, we'll be more than glad to help you out and get those answered. Larry had in there, it looks for, you have clear sheets. You mean clean sheets? what the expectation should be.
Yeah, I was typing fast. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. You were just wondering. For that, I
So,
may. Yeah, go
so
ahead.
yes. So, I was wondering what the expectation should be for like clean sheets for, and maybe you can't answer this. Maybe this is just for the more software side. But like when
Mhm.
you're looking at it, like what should that expectation be? Like, I guess per observer, or like will it differ? You know.
Yeah, so it definitely differs between the observers. Kind of what it does is just whether they're answering, all safes, all at risk, or I think that's what it is, Carlin. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Uh, whether
Yeah,
it's you're answering kind of the same answer for each is what it kind of categorizes it as. And it kind of gives, so in our observer stats report, it does give that percentage. And
Right.
really, I mean, obviously, for some of these, I mean, you can go out there and not find an at risk, and it would possibly show up. Um, but it looks, uh,
I think the main thing with like the employee, you want to make sure they're not staying at 100%. And we can get you we can ask some of the consultants a little bit more
yeah,
about what is a good clean sheet number. I feel like it's in the 90s, but I don't know if there's an exact number or if they expect there to be an exact number. Some of those questions we ask them, they're kind of like, well, it just depends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Thanks.
can get back
That's
to
what I
you.
was looking for. Yeah, I appreciate
Yep.
that.
Nope.
yeah,
Definitely
no.
don't want to see 100 on there.
Does
Any
anyone have
other?
anything else?
Sorry, Chris.
No, no worries. Love the little delay.
That's great. Russell, he says that when he's training, he tries to tell everyone that he would like to see at least 1 out of 10 that should have an at-risk behavior. And I think that's a pretty good thing because that shows you that they're looking for stuff if they're doing 1 out of 10. So that's a great thing. Anyone else have any questions?
Well,
So
if
if
we
you're
don't have, yeah, go
go
for it.
So he also, and this is good, you guys, it's great to hear from you guys and tell other people what to do here too, like they're doing, is he's saying that, so if you find 20 observations and all are 100% safe, it might be a good thing to have that coached observation with them to make sure that they're looking at everything while they're out in the field and looking for those at risk, because the whole purpose of it is really to look for at risk so you can try to eliminate some of the injuries and things that could happen if they don't see things like that. So. All right. Well, if you guys, once we get off of this and you guys have any other questions, please contact your customer or your client success manager. They can help you out. If you have any questions, I think this chat actually, if you have Teams, will stay kind of open so you can see it, but feel free to contact any of us.
Yep, for sure. And like Carla said, if you have anything else, definitely reach out to us. We will be, once the recording is all kind of wrapped up, we'll get that sent over and put out on YouTube and let you guys have that, and as well as the PowerPoint that Carla had. So we thank you all for your time. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it from your busy day. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Have a safe rest of your day and week, and we will talk with everyone soon.
Bye, everyone.
Great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Carla,
Yes.
quick question. We are not able to get access to YouTube on our company network.
Mhm.
Is there a separate or alternate way we could also get a copy of this?
Okay, I can't tell who's talking to me, so you have to tell me that first.
Sorry, John Proctor from Novellis.
Okay. Let me see if I can't figure out a way to get it to you guys. Teams is really hard to send videos for. So I have some ideas. So let me play with it and see if we can't get a way for you guys to look at it. Or if we need to, we can maybe see if we can put it in the help files for you to go ahead and pick it up also.
Okay, thank you.